The day my HOA turned my life into a reality TV show started with a single, jaw-dropping sight: 5 massive shipping containers stacked like a rusty fortress right across my driveway. I froze mid-sip, coffee dripping down my chin, staring out my kitchen window in suburban Atlanta. My Toyota was trapped in the garage, and I had a client meeting in 45 minutes. What kind of neighborhood prank was this? I bolted outside in my mismatched pajamas. Yep, the ones with the faded Mickey Mouse print, barely registering the crisp October air. Those hulking metal boxes loomed over my modest ranch-style house in Willow Grove, blocking every inch of my exit. My heart pounded. This wasn't just inconvenient, it felt personal. Hey, if you're watching this, drop a comment below. Has your HOA ever pulled something this wild? I yanked my phone from my pocket, snapping pics of the absurdity, when I spotted Karen across the street. There she was, the queen bee of the Willow Grove Homeowners Association, watering her pristine azaleas with that smug little grin she always wore. Her blonde bob gleamed under the morning sun, and her HOA badge, a shiny gold pin, glinted like a sheriff's star. "Morning, Mike," she called, her voice dripping with fake cheer. "Quite the surprise, huh? Karen, what is this?" I demanded, stomping toward her, my slippers slapping the pavement. "I can't even get my car out." She set her watering can down with exaggerated care, like she was savoring the moment. "Oh, Mike, the HOA board voted last week. We're storing these containers here temporarily. Didn't you get the notice?" "Notice? What notice?" I scrolled through my inbox, nothing but spam and a coupon for 10% off at Home Depot. "I didn't get anything." She shrugged, her smile tightening. "Must have gone to spam. Anyway, it's just for a few months." Section 14.2 of the HOA bylaws, temporary use of shared spaces for community projects. Your driveway's got that extra 3 feet of easement. So she pointed to some faint chalk lines I'd never noticed before. "It's legal." "Legal?" My voice hit a pitch I didn't know I had. "You've trapped me in my own house. I've got a meeting in." I checked my phone. 37 minutes. "Community needs come first," she said, turning back to her flowers. "Board meetings tonight at 7. Feel free to complain there." And with that, she dismissed me like I was some pesky kid begging for candy. I stood there, fuming, as the reality sank in. 5 years in Willow Grove, 5 years of their petty rules. My porch light was too bright last summer. My recycling bin too visible the month before. But this was war. I called my boss, mumbled an excuse about working from home, and started dialing tow companies. Every single one refused. "Sorry, man, HOA's got a no-touch policy on their projects," one guy said, sounding genuinely apologetic. I was stuck. By noon, my doorbell rang. It was Linda, the sweet older lady from 2 houses down, holding a foil-covered dish. "I saw what they did, Mike," she said, her voice soft but firm. "It's not right. Brought you some lasagna." She lived here 25 years, long before the HOA turned into a mini dictatorship. We sat at my kitchen table, the smell of melted cheese mixing with my growing frustration. "Karen's been after me since I moved in," I said, stabbing a fork into the lasagna. "But this is next level." Linda nodded, her silver hair catching the light. "She picks someone every year to mess with. Last time it was the Garcias, find them over a kiddie pool. They moved out." "I'm not moving," I said, my jaw tightening. "This is my home." After Linda left, I rummaged through my desk for my property papers. The HOA bylaws were a brick of fine print, but I wasn't looking for rules. I was looking for leverage. Then my phone pinged with an email from my property management company, Cornerstone Realty. Monthly rent summary. I opened it absent-mindedly, still flipping through bylaws, when a name near the bottom stopped me cold: Willow Grove Homeowners Association. Wait, what? I scrolled back up. There it was, $1, $200 a month, paid to Cornerstone Realty for their office space in a strip mall off Peachtree Road. A strip mall I'd bought 6 years ago as an investment. I laughed so hard I nearly fell off my chair. They had no idea. I'd set up Cornerstone as an LLC after my dad passed, letting my manager handle the tenants. The HOA didn't know Mike Taylor and Cornerstone Realty were the same guy. Their lease renewal was due in 22 days. Oh, this was going to be good. Across town, Karen was probably sipping her iced tea, thinking she'd won. She had no clue I was about to flip her perfect little world upside down. I straightened my tie in the mirror, grinning for the first time all day. Tonight's 7 p.m. meeting was going to be one they'd never forget. The sun dipped below the horizon as I stepped out my front door, the cool Atlanta evening wrapping around me like a promise of chaos. My car was still hostage in the garage, so I walked the 3 blocks to the Willow Grove Community Center, my leather portfolio tucked under my arm. Neighbors shot me quick glances, some sympathetic, others darting away like they'd catch trouble just by looking too long. I couldn't blame them. Karen and her crew had ruled this place like suburban royalty for years. But tonight, I had an ace up my sleeve. The community center buzzed with tension when I slipped inside. Folding chairs were packed tight, and the air smelled faintly of burnt coffee from the ancient pot in the corner. Karen sat at the front table, clipboard in hand, flanked by Tom, her right-hand man with a buzz cut that screamed ex-military, and Lisa, whose perm looked like it hadn't changed since 1985. They shuffled papers, whispering importantly, while I slid into a back row seat. Linda gave me a small wave from across the room, her quiet support a lifeline in this sea of HOA loyalists. Karen banged her gavel, because of course she had a gavel, like she was presiding over a courtroom. "Let's call this meeting to order," she announced, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. "First item, our new community enhancement project." A grainy slideshow flickered onto the wall, Willow Grove Future Fund. Stock photos of smiling kids on swings flashed by. "Thanks to our deal with Apex Shipping, we're earning $1,500 a month to store containers on shared property. It'll fund new playground equipment and security cameras." A guy in the front row, Brian, I think, the one with the loud dog, raised his hand. "Where exactly are these containers? 'Cause I saw 5 of them blocking Mike Taylor's driveway this morning." Every head swiveled toward me. I felt the heat of their stares, but I kept my face neutral. Karen didn't miss a beat. "Mr. Taylor's driveway extends 3 feet into community easement," she said, tapping her clipboard. "Section 14.2 allows temporary use. It's all above board." Above board. I stood, my voice steady despite the adrenaline pumping through me. "I measured my property line this afternoon. It's fully within my deed. I've got the survey right here." I held up the faded document, watching Lisa's face flush. "Nothing in your bylaws lets you block my garage." Karen's eyes narrowed, but she recovered fast. "It's a temporary measure for the greater good. We sent notices." I didn't get one, I shot back. "Was there even a vote on using my driveway?" The room shifted uncomfortably. Linda piped up, her voice soft but firm. "I don't recall voting on whose house we'd block. Did anyone else?" Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Tom cleared his throat, his jaw tight. "It was an executive decision. Leadership means tough calls." Tough calls. I walked to the front, feeling every eye on me. "You signed a deal to make money by parking containers on my property without asking me. How's that leadership?" "The community's needs outweigh one person's inconvenience," Karen snapped, her tone icy. "This benefits everyone. Everyone except me." I said, "I can't use my car." Lisa suggested I carpool. Great idea when I can't even get out of my garage. A few nervous laughs broke the tension. Even the HOA diehards looked uneasy now. "How long are they staying?" someone called from the back. 6 months, Tom answered, and the room erupted. 6 months? Even Willow Grove's rule followers balked at that. I raised my hand, waiting for the noise to die down. "One more question," I said, locking eyes with Karen. "Do you all know who owns the office where your HOA meets? That little suite off Peachtree Road." Karen frowned, confused. "Cornerstone Realty. What's that got to do with?" I smiled, slow and deliberate, and set my business card on their table. "Mike Taylor, CEO of Cornerstone Realty. Nice to meet my tenants." The room went dead silent. Lisa grabbed the card, her hands shaking as she showed it to Karen. Tom's mouth dropped open like a cartoon character. Karen's face twisted, her composure cracking. "This meeting's adjourned," she sputtered, banging her gavel so hard it nearly snapped. "We'll revisit this later." People filed out, whispering like they'd just seen a plot twist in a soap opera. Linda caught up with me outside, her eyes sparkling. "You own their building?" "For 6 years," I said, grinning. They never connected the dots. Tom stormed over, his face red. "This doesn't change anything. That Apex deal's signed." "Interesting," I replied, calm as ever. "Because I was just thinking how your office might need some upgrades. The kind that could take, 6 months to finish." His expression faltered, and I turned away, my phone buzzing with a text from an unknown number. "You've started something big, Taylor." Back at home, I peeked out my window. The containers still loomed, but they didn't feel as heavy anymore. Across town, Karen was probably pacing her living room, plotting her next move. She didn't know it yet, but I wasn't just fighting for my driveway. I was fighting for all of us. And I had a feeling things were about to get loud. Meanwhile, a news van pulled up on my street, its headlights cutting through the dusk. A reporter hopped out, mic in hand, and I realized this wasn't staying quiet much longer. I woke to the growl of engines and a chorus of voices outside my window. Rubbing sleep from my eyes, I stumbled to the blinds and peeked out. 3 news vans lined my quiet street in Willow Grove, their satellite dishes poking into the gray Atlanta sky. Reporters milled around my driveway, mics poised, while a drone buzzed overhead like some nosy metal bird. The shipping containers, still squatting there like rusty bullies, were now the backdrop for a full-on media circus. My phone buzzed nonstop on the nightstand. Text from neighbors, a missed call from my boss, and a notification that #HOA Karen was trending on X. What the heck had happened overnight? The doorbell rang like a machine gun. I yanked on a hoodie, covering my pajama shirt, at least, and opened the door to a blonde reporter from Channel 5, her mic already in my face. Mike Taylor? I'm Jessica Hayes. How does it feel to be trapped by your own HOA? Trapped is right, I said, blinking into the camera. They blocked my driveway with those things yesterday. No warning. Sources say this is retaliation from the Willow Grove HOA, she pressed. True. I didn't call you guys, I said, honest confusion creeping in. But yeah, it's personal. They've been on me for years. Within 20 minutes, I'd given 3 more interviews from my porch, still in slippers, as neighbors gawked from their lawns. Linda waved from her stoop, a sly grin on her face. Had she tipped them off? By noon, my phone was a war zone. Texts like, "You're famous, Mike," from my buddy Steve, and a furious voicemail from Karen. What have you done? We're getting calls from freaking California. I didn't call the media, but someone had, probably from last night's meeting. The story was viral. Homeowner versus HOA nightmare. Photos of my container block driveway were everywhere online, racking up thousands of likes. I couldn't help but smirk. Karen's perfect little kingdom was crumbling, and she didn't even see it coming. My lawyer, Emily, showed up at 1 p.m., weaving through the reporters in her sharp blazer. Well, Mike, she said once we were inside, shutting the door on the chaos, you've got everyone's attention. I handed her my property deed and the Cornerstone Realty lease docs. Can they legally do this? I asked, pointing to the containers through the window. She adjusted her glasses, scanning the papers. Not even close. They're breaking city codes, emergency access, for one. You could tow them today. She paused, tapping her pen. But this lease? Their renewal's in 22 days. You've got them by the throat. I don't want to kick them out, I admitted, leaning against the counter. I just want my driveway back and their power trips to stop. Emily grinned. Then we rewrite the lease terms. Make them sweat. She started typing on her laptop while I poured us coffee. Outside, a pizza delivery guy dropped off boxes for the reporters. Someone was feeding the frenzy. Linda slipped in through my back door an hour later, avoiding the cameras. Mike, it's a mess out there, she said, her eyes wide. Karen called an emergency meeting for tonight. She's saying you staged this to humiliate them. I groaned. I didn't call anyone. Did you? She hesitated, then grinned. My grandson might have posted a video on TikTok. He's got 50,000 followers. I laughed, quiet, sneaky Linda, the secret rebel. There's more, she added, lowering her voice. Apex Shipping called Karen. They're threatening to pull the contract over the bad press. I heard her yelling through her window, something broke. Perfect, Emily said, looking up from her screen. Here's the draft. They remove the containers by tomorrow, issue a public apology, hold open board elections, and ditch the dumbest rules. Option 2? They find a new office in 30 days. It's fair, I said, reading it over. Not revenge, just accountability. As evening fell, the media crowd grew. A guy from Channel 11 interviewed Brian about his dog, somehow tying it to the HOA drama. My phone rang with a Hollywood producer pitching a docuseries. Insane. I dressed for the emergency meeting in a button-up and jeans, nothing flashy. I wasn't here to gloat. I just wanted my life back. The community center was overflowing when I arrived, neighbors spilling into the hallway. Karen, Tom, and Lisa sat up front, faces grim. Karen banged her gavel, her voice tight. This emergency session addresses the container situation and the media mess Mr. Taylor created. I didn't call them, I said, standing as boos and cheers clashed. But those containers are real, and they're illegal. Tom jumped up. waving photos. We've got proof your driveway's on community land. Satellite images show your fence is 2 feet over the line. The crowd murmured, buying their spin. Those are edited, I said, holding up my survey. And I've got the county on speed dial to prove it. Karen's eyes darted to Lisa, who was texting furiously. Then the door swung open. A burly guy in an Apex shipping jacket stormed in. Karen Williams? Your containers are a PR disaster. Move them, or we're done. The room exploded, neighbors shouting, Karen slamming her gavel. Across town, my buddy Steve was probably watching this unfold on X, texting me memes I wouldn't see till later. Karen approached me as chaos reigned, her smile forced. Let's talk privately. Nope, I said, loud enough for everyone. Transparency's overdue here. She glared, but I saw the crack in her armor. The containers weren't the only thing moving tonight. Willow Grove was shifting, and I wasn't sure where it'd land. The air in the Willow Grove Community Center hung thick with tension, like the moment before a Georgia thunderstorm cracks open the sky. Karen stood inches from me, her forced smile twitching as the Apex shipping guy's words echoed through the room. Neighbors argued over each other, some defending the HOA, others fed up after years of nonsense. My phone buzzed in my pocket, probably Steve with another meme, but I kept my eyes on Karen. She wanted this private, but I wasn't budging. Let's keep it out here, I said again, my voice carrying. Everyone deserves to hear this. Her jaw tightened, but before she could snap back, Lisa rushed over, whispering something frantic. Karen's face paled, and she turned to the crowd. We've just learned the city's issuing citations, she announced, her voice cracking. The containers violate fire codes, no permits. The room went wild. Tom tried to shout over the noise, waving his doctored photos, but no one cared anymore. I caught Linda's eye across the chaos. She winked, subtle as ever. Outside, back at my place, those news vans were probably still camped out, cameras rolling as this imploded. Emily stepped up beside me, handing out copies of our lease proposal. Option 1, she said, loud and clear. You keep your office with new terms. Containers gone by morning, a public apology, open elections, and rule changes. Option 2, you're out in 30 days. Karen snatched a copy, her hands trembling as she scanned it. This is extortion, she hissed. It's a choice, Emily corrected, cool as ice. Mike doesn't have to renew your lease. Take it or leave it. A voice cut through the crowd. Brian, the dog guy. What's in those terms? We should see him. Linda nodded, passing sheets around. People read, their murmurs turning to excited chatter. No more fines for stupid stuff like flower pot colors, board elections every year, rules decided by us, not just them. The energy flipped. Neighbors who'd stayed quiet for years were suddenly alive, comparing stories of Karen's petty reign. Tom tried one last stand. We've raised property values. You need us. But Mrs. Carter, a retiree with a killer rose garden, shot back. By finding me $100 for a birdhouse? I'm done. The room cheered, and I felt it, a tide turning. Then the Apex guy stepped forward again. We're pulling the contract, he said, glaring at Karen. Your mess cost us too much PR. Containers are gone by dawn. Karen's gavel hit the table, but it was weak, defeated. She slumped into her chair as tow trucks rumbled outside. Someone must have called them already. Across town, my garage door was about to see daylight again. I raised my voice over the noise. One more thing. I could sell you the building. Fair price, fair terms. No landlord, just you. But I need to see your financials first. Karen's head snapped up, her eyes narrowing, but the crowd latched on. Yeah, where's our money going? Brian yelled. Those fines, the Apex cash, show us. Karen whispered to Lisa, who looked like she might bolt. Tom just stared at the floor. Finally, Karen stood, her voice barely audible. The board resigns. Effective now. She dropped a folder on the table, resignation papers, and walked out, Lisa and Tom trailing her like deflated balloons. The room went quiet, then erupted in applause. Linda hugged me, laughing. You did it, Mike. Did we do it? I said, grinning. This was all of us. By morning, the containers were gone. I stood on my porch, coffee in hand, watching the last tow truck roll away. My Toyota gleamed in the garage, free at last. Reporters lingered, snapping victory shots, but the Real win was quieter. Linda organized a backyard meeting that afternoon. No gavels, Just neighbors and lawn chairs, planning a new HOA. Safety and fairness, Brian suggested, and we all nodded. Even Karen's old ally, Mrs. Carter, pitched in. No more birdhouse fines. That night, my phone buzzed with a text from Karen. I didn't mean for this. I'm sorry. I stared at it, wondering if she meant it. Maybe she'd show up to plant tomatoes with Linda someday. Maybe not. Either way, Willow Grove wasn't hers anymore. It was ours. A week later, the block party stretched across front yards, kids racing between houses, no one policing their fun. Mrs. Carter's roses bloomed free, Brian's dog barked happily, and my driveway stayed gloriously empty. Linda plopped down beside me on a blanket, handing me a samosa. Made these for you, she said. For kicking this off. I took a bite, spicy, perfect. Couldn't have done it without you, I said. Or that TikTok grandson of yours. She laughed, and we watched the sunset paint the sky orange. Across town, Karen's house was dark. She'd been scarce since the meeting. But here, Willow Grove hummed with something new. People over rules, messy and real. Hey, if you made it this far, hit that subscribe button. I've got more stories from this crazy neighborhood coming. And comment below, what's the wildest thing your HOA's ever done? Let's keep this going.